Welcome back, everybody. Another episode of Insights with C5 Insight. I'm thrilled to be joined with Emily, Aaron, and Jeff from C5 here today, and we are going to chat about the thing that everybody is talking about, the whole topic of AI and its infusion into basically everything that is happening. I mean, if you haven't heard about this, I don't even think the term living under a rock applies. You must be on a different planet because it is literally everywhere these days. It's amazing to me. So.
Well, and I find it interesting too, because I guess to some degree, we've been interacting with things powered by AI for so long, right? Like predictive text in Gmail, or I'm sure everyone on this call perhaps has some form of a assistant, a Google Home assistant, Alexa, Siri, whatever that might be. So to a degree, we've been interacting with it in some way, but I completely understand the advancements, in the last even just 6 months and just how much it's exploded. Really, it is absolutely wild.
Yeah, I think I guess that the difference is because it's been around for many, many years. Right? I use something called Eliza on a Radio Shack Tandy. Ask your grandparents if you're not sure what that is. Way back in the day, and it was like you could have a conversation, right? It was like your little virtual therapist thing, but it was based on a very, very small database. Now it's a large language module where it understands way more of what we can put into it, and it has a enormous database of knowledge it can use to create answers.
Yeah. I think one of the things I've heard from organizations or just people in general is, including my children, they're like, wow, this is so cool. How do I use it? Like what, and not technically how do I use it, but like, how could I benefit from this? So I know when we were offline, we were talking a little bit about like, how could an organization leverage this tool? And I don't know if you guys have any insights. Pretty sure you do because we hit record. So that means we're ready. So maybe you can throw out some examples. Yeah.
I know I use it. I mean, I'm literally using it. If not every day, there are days where I use it multiple times. And if I need help brainstorming, creating, writing, images, code, I don't do much with code, but even what little I do, it's absolutely a game changer. So, and Malcolm, your question was, so how can we start using it? So whether you're on ChatGPT or you're using Bing, I imagine things like Bard also will let you do these kinds of things, like ideas, like the hardest part of starting something new, right? Like, hey, I need to submit a webinar. Give me 10 ideas for a webinar that has to do with ChatGPT or something like, and it gives you 10 quick topics, right? Great simple way to get started with something like that. Or help me rewrite. Somebody sent me a very nice email after I spoke last week on something and said some very nice things, and I wanted to say something nice back, but I was short on time and I could not quite get the words to come. So I just kind of blabbed about like 3 quick bullet points. And then Grammarly, which is something I use to improve my grammar, now has a thing for helping with putting better sentences together. So I highlighted and said, give me better ideas. It created 3 beautiful sentences. Boom, I was done, right? Another simple use of it.
Yeah. And with everything you described too, Jeff, it's really helping you be more efficient and helping you, right? It's augmenting your activities or what you're trying to achieve. And in my use as well, like using ChatGPT, it might be, make a recipe with these ingredients that I have, trying out prompts like that to see what we'll come back with. I mean, personally, I absolutely love finding hilarious images on Midjourney or Dolly and getting those prompts going. But I think overall, it is really trying to just augment, or that's how I'm viewing it and how I'm using it, is really augmenting what I might be facing a roadblock with. I'm trying to write like a quick summary email, or I'm trying to put some thoughts together, and I just really need help putting that down. Can I get these prompts from it? And that's how I've been using it, tools like that.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because like as you think about it, a lot of things that we're doing with the AI kind of side of things is more simple. Like these questions, maybe creating a document, maybe creating like a news list or a priorities list that we need to do through the day or something like that. But it's interesting to think of like, what will it be as we continue to progress with that? Like how much more complex and how like what else we'll be able to do with it.
Well, that opens up. So I saw an interesting video the other day, and I didn't catch the timestamp, so I don't know when this was done. But they were talking about how the AI over time has slowly been generating its own theory of mind, which is your ability to take what somebody's saying and formulate a thought, opinion, or something on it, and then articulate that back. And so they were saying it had progressed. In 2019 it was 0. In 2020, I don't know if the dates are right. 2020 it was the level of a 4-year-old. Then it was a 6-year-old. Now it's up to a 9-year-old. And what they had said is the fascinating thing is that nobody knew the AI model was actually doing this until within the last like 6 months. So there's this, it's literally doing things that we don't know. It's got things in its model that we don't even know exist in there. And that to me is as hard to comprehend as it is that the universe is infinitely expanding. Like, you ask me that, you put that on the table, and my mind just blows up. This is along the same lines. Like, I don't understand how it can be doing things that we don't even realize it's doing. Because I've always traditionally thought of computers are great. They do amazing things if the person who programmed them told them to do it properly. This seems to be getting outside of that realm, where it's like it's able to build its own. I mean, it's literally artificial intelligence. It's intelligent and doing things on its own, which is mind-boggling.
Getting smarter about how it's being smart.
Yeah.
Absolutely wild concept. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's pretty fascinating. So lots of good ideas on how to leverage it. And the other one that I heard was that somebody started, you guys were talking about ideas, and they were like, we need to do a marketing plan, but we don't know where to start. Here's our product. It gave it some bullet points about the product and said, help me build out a marketing plan for a 6-month period to highlight this product. And it started giving them ideas, and they were like, they weren't perfect. Like, some of them needed to be tweaked and adjusted, but it gave us stuff that we just couldn't think of. Our whole team wasn't thinking about these, and it just gave us a fresh spin on stuff that we were like, oh, we could totally run with that. And away they went with this whole new campaign based on suggestions and tools that they got from AI, which is really, really cool. So,
and that's very much my experience with it too, right? So far, in my experience, it's a great assistant, right? Microsoft calls it Copilot for some of the things they're doing, where I haven't been able to just say, do this, great, copy paste, we're done. It's more, do this, not quite the answer I wanted, refine it, do this, copy it out. I do my own edits with it. But that said, I mean, Malcolm, you gave me something that was kind of an internal only, very choppy but helpful kind of piece of knowledge for us to share internally. And in 15 minutes, it converted that into a wonderfully written blog, which would have taken 2 to 4 hours up until recently. Now, that wasn't just copy paste, write a blog. It was write the blog, tweak this, do that, proofread it, and get it in final format. But it was a blog that would have never seen the light of day had we not had it to help us with it.
Helping you chip away at those tasks.
Copy. Just kidding. It was. Sorry, Emily, go ahead.
No, I was just going to add on that it is how in that usage, and that's been my experience as well, Jeff. It's really just helping you with those few extra steps, like helping. I'll maybe tweak it a little bit, bring it back, refine it. That's been my experience as well. So really augmenting it.
But Aaron, to your point, the more that goes in, the more it will be able to do too. I know some of the Microsoft Copilot stuff. I can envision a day in the not too distant future where I could say, write a proposal for client XYZ based on all the other proposals we've written of that type and the notes that I've taken as I've engaged with that client, right? I mean, that's what a human basically does. They just bring all of that stuff together. And might it be perfect at it ever? I don't know, maybe someday. But even if it's not, I mean, the proposal writing process is an incredibly time-consuming, brain-draining process. Whereas if I could say, give me a first draft of it, and then I could go through and tweak it however I need to. And I think that makes us the unique part of us as humans. It lets me kind of go, now the parts that are different for this customer, that's where I can really apply my brain to kind of creating something new and breakthrough, but I can depend on this assistant to do all the stuff that's more mundane.
Yeah, I don't want to undermine what it can do today, because it can do, I mean, what you just said, Jeff, about, you can create something you and Malcolm are working, and, you basically cut it, in half your time to work on that post or blog. So that's amazing. But I guess my point is, like, how much more can we get out of these systems and AI, things that, in the past, what we've had these visions of like robots and, what are they going to do and take over the world. I don't think it'll get to that point, but I think there's definitely more progression that we'll see that will just continue to blow our minds as we kind of go into the future with it.
Yeah, that broaches the scary factor, which every time I talk about this with somebody, I'm like, yeah, but look at this, right? And so we all have those visions of like the Terminator movies and the whatever. But that aside, one of the things that I saw, a different video, but they were talking about two fascinating things. Number one was how it's actually being biased by our biases of society because it's learning from the information that's available. So it's just inherently adopting the biases that we seem to have, and it had this version. It was I can't remember his name. I wish I could, and hopefully I will before we wrap. Not John Cooper, but a different guy. But he had a whole segment on it, and he talked about that, but also how where I'm losing my train of thought. It's formulating biases. Oh, and they created this Twitter bot, which is not uncommon. There's lots of those now, but they started to roll it out, and it started to come up with some really inappropriate. Like they canned it after 24 hours. They had to pull it offline because it was feeding off of what social media was putting out there, and it just happened to be following these accounts that were spewing maybe not the greatest perspectives on things, and it started to mirror and mimic that and parrot some of those things, and they were like, whoa, time out, we're not endorsing these things at all, so we need to pull it off. So that's interesting to me. And that the other point was some of the scary things that it's doing, like the voice replication AI that's out there, where it's now down to just a handful of seconds is all it needs of your voice to then be able to carry on and sound just like you with your inflection, with your all those things that it can do. And people can use that for really manipulative purposes. And I was talking to somebody a couple weeks ago about this. My telecommunications provider uses voice authentication. So they don't even ask me to, you call in somewhere and they're like, what's your postal code? What's your birthday? What's your, whatever. They don't do that anymore because as soon as it hears me, it's like, oh yeah, that's legit Malcolm. Well, now somebody could call in with this AI and they would just authenticate. And now they have full access to all of my telecommunications stuff. They can add stuff to my plan, add lines and stuff, and I would have no idea. Obviously there's fail safes like confirmation emails and whatnot, but that's eye opening to me. Like, whoa, what else could it be doing? So that those dangers, and I don't want to, focus too much on those, but they are to me a realistic consideration when you're thinking about this stuff. Is how far can it go? To your point, Aaron, like what else could it be doing? It's kind of scary to think about.
There's definitely dangers, but so I'm might be the outlier. I take kind of an optimistic view because historically, every innovation, right from fire to the printing press to the internet, has posed incredible danger for job loss, for abuse. And you know what? Humans always find a way to abuse it. By and large, so far, we've been pretty successful at, after screwing it up a lot, ultimately figuring out how to regulate it, how to get the value out of it. I think we'll get there. But as I think about it, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but last week, the Surgeon General of the United States declared loneliness an epidemic in this country. It probably is in multiple other countries. That was put on top of a study, an 80-year study by Harvard Medical School, that over 80 years, it looked at people starting at a very young age over the course of their life, and they studied more comprehensively than ever what leads to a happy, healthy life. And the outcome of that whole study was it's relationships. And in fact, loneliness, if you're lonely, it's worse than smoking 15 cigarettes per day, right? We all know how unhealthy smoking is, but really being lonely is less healthy. The other thing, when the Surgeon General released this, they noted young people, for the first time in our history, young people are more lonely than at any time ever in history. And I think part of that's because of what's been happening in our world with technology and social and mobile devices, smartphones and all that. And this, I think, when we look at all the other risk factors, this is going to be a harder one for us to get our hands around, right? I think it can make us less lonely if we do it well, but we tend to kind of embrace things that cause more division, more time alone, and less time in relationship to other human beings. That's the thing that concerns me, right? I'd like to see us actually improve and not in that area.
That's absolutely fascinating. Yeah, I love that.
And it's one of those topics that I think we could probably talk about for ages, lots of times. And I think before we went even live, we said, like, let's start with this overarching, topic and broach it. But I think we'll probably revisit this on future episodes of Insights with C5 Insight, because I think to the point of everybody's comments today, there's so many things that we don't even know it could do, moving forward, it's going to get even more robust and more functional. And there's other things that we could do with it. So we'll probably revisit and
it'll
maybe
probably
surface
be
some of those
ubiquitous
in the
too.
future.
It'll be like talking about the internet or something. It's like you can't just talk about the internet. There's too much other stuff in there.
Yeah, it almost feels like we're there. So because it's everywhere. Like we said at the top of the call, it seems to be everywhere. So awesome. Well, I appreciate everybody's insights on episode of Insights with C5 Insights. So appreciate you paying attention, watching us. And if you have thoughts or questions, we'd love to hear from you. Throw them in. I'll do the YouTube thing. Throw them in the comments box below, and we'd love to hear from you. And of course, reach out, and we can. I know I always say that, and then I say, well, I hope they don't put the box up there or over there, because then these videos are all going to be dated. So let's hope they keep the comments box below. So awesome. Thanks for your time, everybody. We'll talk again soon.
Bye all.
Bye.